Can something be beautiful and depressing at the same time? Yes. It's called Disco Elysium. It's such a fucking gloomy, dark, depressing game, but there's so much beauty and richness and intellect, and the writing is top notch. Character development. You got one of the best sidekicks ever, Kim Kitsuragi. This is a great game. I definitely believe is a must play. But it's like one of those games where like you can't just recommend a particular type of game because at this point and click games like Disco Elysium, if that's what you want to call it, some people say CRPG. It is, but it's like I don't know. It doesn't really have any combat like in the traditional sense. So to me, it's primarily a point and click game. But like you can't just recommend this to like everyone and be like everyone should play this. That'd be cool if everyone did, but the thing is there are people out there who play shooters or action RPGs or whatever the case may be, and it's like they're not going to like this. I mean, I would tell them you have to give them like a strong, not a warning, but more like you have to be very descriptive and before you make them make the purchase, or even if you purchase it for them or gift it to them, you have to let them know, like, look, this isn't a game that you normally would play, but it is something that I feel is interesting enough to recommend to you. But because I hear that shit a lot from people, from all sorts of people, from friends, YouTubers, they kind of go, "Yo, you got to play this game," and I'm like, "Did you even take into consideration the types of games that I normally play?" Now, me, for example, I can't speak for no one else, but I'm really open minded about lots of things, right? In general, video games as well as outside of video games, I like to try new things, and I'm always keeping an eye out for something cool, something interesting, something new. So if I didn't play point and click slash CRPG games or whatever you want to label it, I would definitely at least look it up, right? Because we all have phones in our pockets or some sort of internet connection, and we can find out what a game or a book or a show or a movie looks like before we even watch it. There are millions of people who have already watched it, and chances are put up a clickbaity ass thumbnail on YouTube. Got to get them likes. It is a game where I've found myself bummed out regularly. Like I playing this game, I was like, Jesus, like I just felt so bad. Like it's gloomy, it's hopeless, and like if you're talking about atmosphere, this game captures that hopelessness, that end of the rope mentality, and tough, resilient blue collar people living in this town or country or Revachol. I don't know. Which that brings me to another thing. I believe it's called Revachol. I don't know. It has like it. I want to say French undertones. I'm not even sure if it's a real language, but they did so well with Disco Elysium in the sense that they created an entire world. Now, of course, you can say that about any developer that makes a video game, right? They created an entire world. But like, no, I don't think you understand like geopolitical shit, like lore about like yes, some bigger publishers and even some indie publishers have made entire worlds with all that I just named. But this one right here, it goes so into detail that I genuinely thought these were real places for a while. Even though I've read before I even played the game that this is all fiction. The characters are fiction, the world is fiction, even some of the politics, or pretty much all of the politics, are fiction. I still find myself like looking up on my phone like, who is this? This real? This sounds too close to home for it not to be real. But that's how great the writing was, like it just it really immersed you into this sad, gloomy ass world that I loved, that I really did. To be honest with you, I would say my only complaint, and I mean like my only, you know what? Scratch that. Now that I think about it, not only two complaints here. Two. One being, oh, all in all, I thought the game was great, except there are many times where I thought it was a little too artsy fartsy. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes I feel like you can tell that the writer of this game was a novelist, or he wrote books before. Like you can, it's very dramatic. It's very, the writing has flair, has personality, and it's great the vast majority of the time. That's why I say this is a minor complaint. And I emphasize the word minor. It's almost on the nitpicking side of things. It sometimes it comes off a little bit like try hardy. Does that make a sense? Like, like you'll be talking to like a suspect or something, and out of nowhere they'll start describing the desolate, broken windows of a building that's next to you, and I'm like, okay, I get it. You're trying to build, uh, not so much suspense, but you're trying to like be very descriptive in how fucked up the world around you is. But sometimes you're in the middle of an investigation, or you're in the middle of a conversation. Like you literally are exchanging words, and it'll be like, the building is bombed out and depleted. And I'm just like, okay, I get it. That's cool. But it's like at the same time, I didn't need to know that. Like you could have told me that like after the conversation or whatever. So I do feel like I was like, okay, okay, in the name of really trying to sell your world, really trying. I felt like I was like, okay, dude, this is a little too artsy for me. Like it gets a little crazy. The second one would be, excuse me, skill checks, right? Many times I've had like a 92% or a 94% chance of unlocking that skill or unlocking that certain piece of dialogue with someone. And 92, 94%, I roll it. Boom, fail it. I'm like, the fuck? How? Who fails a 94%? I had a 94% chance of passing that. 94. That's like, you can say that's guaranteed. You know what I mean? But I get it. Sometimes, I'm assuming this game is running off like RNG, excuse me, type measures. So I get it. It's that the game's fault, or maybe I just got really unlucky with that, what, extra 6, 7, 8%. It's those were my two minor complaints, and those are tiny, man. Those are tiny compared to the vast experience of this game. Like it is a game where, like, you do, like, I always tell people this. I always go, do you read? Like when I try to recommend this game, and a lot of them go, yes, I do read. I go, do you read often? And they'll go, yeah, I try to, or no, I haven't read in a while. I go, well, look, there's a game that's really great, but it is literally primarily dialogue based games. You're going to be doing the number one thing you're going to be doing is talking to people, since you're a detective, right? And also it's a point and click game. It's not a combat focused game. So it's like, I tell them, like, if you like reading and you're in the mood for a good book, I was like, put that good book on hold and give this game a shot. Like, this game will it'll scratch your book itch as well as your video game itch at the same time. That's the best way I can tell someone who normally doesn't play games like this to give it a shot. Because if I just go, hey man, to one of my boys who plays Apex Legends, is it Apex Legends? Or no, Overwatch. I swear I get those two mixed up. That's how you know I'm getting old. I'm like that old man already. I don't know, can't keep up. If I was to recommend Disco Elysium to one of my friends or one of my coworkers, I should rather say, to play. He plays Overwatch all the time. I'm like, hey, play Disco Elysium. He's not gonna he's in his early 20s. He has ADD just like all you early 20-year-olds do. I'm messing with you, kind of. He's not gonna sit there and fucking spend hours reading about depressed detectives, and you know what I mean. So I can't sit here and recommend this game to just everyone. I have to kind of ease them in, because at this point in time, right? In 2023, point and click games are like a niche game. They're not a majority of games that are normally developed today. To be perfectly honest with you, I think the vast majority of video games that are that I guess that take the big market, a big market share. I don't know. I think they would be like action RPGs or games that are open world because open world seems to be like where the money is. And is it overdone? Yes, just like anything. I love big open world games. I do feel like anyone can make one, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be a world that's deep or complex or has politics. Or sometimes you could just make a big open world game and just for the sake of the game being big and open world, not necessarily because you want to fill that world with actual meaningful quality things and lore. And unfortunately, I'll bring up like Ubisoft, for example, like they kind of admitted it themselves that like, you know, that's pretty much what they've been doing with their big title games, like Far Cry 6 and like Valhalla, which both of those games I've finished. I enjoy those games. I like Ubisoft. But it's like there's no other way to say this without sounding disparaging or without sounding like I'm shitting on Ubisoft, but I'm not. But to be perfectly honest with you, Ubisoft games to me, like they can never get over the mediocre like hump. Like every time I finish an Ubisoft game, and I put time and effort into these games, like Valhalla, and I played like the I played a bunch of Assassin's Creeds from the first trilogy, I believe, and then I skipped quite a few, and then I think I picked back up in Origins. Then I played Odyssey, which I loved. Then I played Valhalla. Point is, every single Ubisoft game I played, aside from like Odyssey, which probably is my favorite Assassin's Creed. And some would say, like, that's where this whole giant open world trend started. I'm like, I doubt that 100%. Ubisoft has been doing this for a while. Anyways, here's a long winded explanation of me trying to tell you that for a long time, every time I finish an Ubisoft game, I always get that feeling of, 6 out of 10. And it's like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if the characters aren't just compelling enough or the worlds are kind of samey. It's just Ubisoft has this vibe. I can't even quantify. Like it's just a feeling. It's a feeling that I get when I'm playing an Ubisoft game where I'm like, oh, this is fine. Like it's never like this is mind-blowingly good. Like when I played like I don't know Ghost of Tsushima or Red Dead Redemption 2 or Fallout 3. Like when I those games I was like this game I'm like hooked. I hate comparing. You know what I mean? Because it's like, of course, this particular game is not going to be better than this type of game. You set your bar up too high, but that's also subjective, right? Because there's people out there who don't think Fallout 3 is a great game, who don't think Red Dead Redemption 2 is a good game. I heard people call it Yeehaw Skyrim, and also don't think that Ghost of Tsushima is a great game. It's all subjective. But I have a coworker that I speak to, and he feels the same way about Ubisoft games. He goes like, Ubisoft makes games, which is like the perfect um way to describe them. It's like Ubisoft makes games. Do they make good games? I said they make games. Do they make bad games? I said they make games. You know what I mean? Like they make games. Are they good? Maybe. Are they bad? Mm. So that's to go back to my original point is that that's something that I feel like and I'm sure there's plenty of other developers too that do this where they just make an open world game for the sake of making an open world game. Maybe they just want to market the fact that their game is the biggest, it has the biggest map in video game, and it's like, okay, it may have, but is it filled with anything good? Is it meaningful? Is it deep? And this is where I feel like Bethesda shines, right? Because once again, completely subjective. I feel like Bethesda, for me, maybe I'm speaking out of bias because I was smitten by Oblivion, by the Elder Scrolls Oblivion, that I feel like, you know what? No, fuck that. I take that back because, Skyrim came out and, some years later after Oblivion, and I still felt that feeling. And since from in that space between Oblivion and Skyrim, I've played so many open world games, and no other game gives me a feeling like a Bethesda game. That's why I'm super psyched for why I'm not gonna say super psyched, but I am excited for Starfield. Do I sound like a fanboy? Maybe. Fuck it, I guess I am. You know what I mean? I'll own up to it. I am. I love Bethesda, and it's still my favorite video game publisher. You know, through the storm. You know, I'll gladly take the criticism for that. But then again, it's very easy, right? It's very easy throwing rocks at a giant. You shouldn't, but it's very easy to. And nowadays I will say that everyone's a critic, right? That's an old saying. People have been saying that for decades. You know, everyone's a critic. But like that doesn't ring any more truer than these current times, 2023. Like everyone's a critic. Even people like YouTubers and people who have no business critiquing anything because they haven't even looked fully at both sides. They haven't sat there and remained objective and went, hey, here's evidence against its here's evidence against why this is good and here's evidence for this is bad. Like there's no objectivity. It's more like just, hey, this is what I think the game is, so I'm forcing my opinions upon you. And it's very effective. Like it's wild how if someone makes a well constructed video, people don't even question that person's credentials. At least I would say the general public. People like me, I question fucking everything. But you know, of course, like if I see this little young blonde haired guy or something telling me why, you know, so and so this game sucks, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna look at so many factors, like how old is this kid, you know, and how often, what kind of games does he play? Is he purposely shitting on this game for views? Like I look at all those things when I'm watching YouTube videos. You know, I don't just blindly watch and listen to his opinions all slack jawed and you know fucking drooling out the side of my mouth like I believe everything this man is saying. He presents a great case. I urge anyone to think for themselves, you know what I mean? But unfortunately, I would say that the general public kind of just, not kind of, absolutely just follows whatever is being said by their popular YouTubers. And it's just not popular YouTubers, right? This has been going on for decades, right? Like movie stars. Like you see them all the time. Movie stars. Dude, nothing makes me fucking angrier than when movie stars and celebrities start weighing in on political situations or in politics in general. Like shut the fuck up, dude. Like if you like and then people bite it. They bite the line because it's like that's my favorite celebrity and of course I'm going to agree with what that celebrity says. Which you know, the majority of them are like left leaning, which if you're a left leaning person or like a Democrat, like you would be like, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? And obviously, if you're a right leaning person, you go, yeah, I see the issue. You know, my issue is like to just glance, to just quickly talk about politics because I'll straight up tell you now, I don't know shit about politics. Nothing. Is that going to stop me from talking about it? No. But at least I gave you a disclaimer, you know, so you can basically take everything that I say about anything, about politics, about anything, and be like, yeah, he doesn't know anything. And I'll back it up. I'll be like, yeah, he's right. I don't. You know, but it just seems to me that if there is one political ideology, regardless if it's the right one, quote unquote, you know, or the left one, quote unquote, like if you can, if you have just one majority of a political ideology, that's bad. You need something to like counterbalance it. You need other people's opinions. You know what I mean? Like you can't just be like, "Oh, well, I'm glad that that the majority of the most powerful corporations on earth or in America at least, they're all left-leaning, right? The media, like the media that gets the most population, the most traffic of viewers, and the most powerful, they're all left leaning. You can say America is primarily left leaning. That's not an overstatement. I'm pretty sure that's a fact. And that's a problem because people would look at that and go, oh, well, if, like I said earlier, if you're left leaning, you would look at that and go, like, that's not an issue because we're the good guys. You know, and it's like to me, it's like anybody that follows one ideology, that's a problem. You know, that's a person that normally that tells me that that's a person that doesn't question anything and kind of just wants to toe the line to stay under the radar. And I'm like, that's not a good thing. You need you need alternate Ideologies, not so maybe ideologies is not the perfect word for it, but you need alternate viewpoints, alternate suggestions, alternate political ideas, I guess. I can't even think of a word. All I'm saying is that's how I feel in general. Maybe you don't, maybe you do. I can't even tell you what the fuck this has to do with video games, but I guess that's the and life thing that I'm always doing. And speaking of politics, like I said earlier, Disco Elysium does have a shitload of politics, very deep, like politics, like to the point where the game kind of keeps a score, like a little tab on you to see if you're like a moralist or a socialist or a communist or a fascist. Like it's like depending on your answers, that's what you are, which is pretty funny because it's like it's not it's it the game pokes fun at you for these decisions that you make or whatever. And I tended to be lots of things in this game, but I ended up more picking more the moralist options or whatever. But it's great. It like I said earlier, the lore and the politics in this game is so deep and rich that I found myself Googling some. Like, there's a guy named Krasmazov. I thought that motherfucker was a real person. I did not. I was like, "Whoa, this guy sounds crazy." And it's like, he kills himself. It doesn't show this. This is old politics in the world. And he was the father of communism, and he ends up killing himself. And it kind of doesn't make sense to you, so you can internalize this thought, which I will speak about in a second, if I can remember. And I was like, "Yo, that's crazy. That sounds like that sounds like a real person." I looked it up, and it automatically went to Disco Elysium wiki, and I was like, "Oh wait, this isn't a real person." I felt kind of dumb. But point is, that's how great, that's how convincing, I would say the devs were in creating this world. It was wild. Oh, speaking of internalizing thoughts, I remember um that's another interesting system. That's pretty cool. It's like I don't think I've seen that in video games, but maybe someone else out there has in like a different CRPG or whatever the case may be. But the fact that you can talk to someone or read something, and then you'll get this thought kind of like in the back of your mind, and you can choose to explore it. And while you're exploring it, it takes a while. It can take a day, it can take a few hours. So in the middle of you exploring this thought, right, you're at a debuff. There's some sort of a debuff, like one less composure, one less volition, one less, you know, some sort of a debuff to your stats while you're researching it. While and it could take anywhere from a day to 7 hours to 9 hours to 3 hours. So once you're at a debuff, you're at this state of a temporary debuff until you research your thought. And once your thought is finally complete, you get the buff, whatever that buff may be. It can be it can increase the skill cap on certain attributes. It can be different types of buffs, and that's really cool. I've never seen that before in any video game. So that's new to me. I didn't find myself using it often. I did use it for a few things. This game screams replay. I'll tell you that right off the bat. Like this game just yells replay at the top. Like you can play this game multiple times and always find new dialogue or always find new new ways to tackle a situation, whether it's through brute strength or whether it's through guile or being cunning and talking to someone and having them do that task for you or whatever the case may be. It screams replay. I was just thinking while I was talking, there was something else besides the thought system that I had to say. Oh, yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's a lot like a book, right? And it even has like a I don't even know if I should spoil it at this point. I'll try not to. I probably did already because I'm retarded like that. Point is, it ends like a book. Like it kind of gives you like a semi cliffhanger. Not really. It's not like a hard cliffhanger where you're like, "Oh, tune in next time on the next episode of Disco Elysium." It's not like that. It's more like It's you the to some people they would find the ending unsatisfying because it seems like some loose ends weren't tied. So you're kind of like, huh, that's it. I got that feeling initially, but then it like hit me like this is such a classic book ending. Like I don't know, that's what I thought. Like I was like, of course it's gonna end like that. It's gonna let you feel like while the credits are rolling, you kind of just put your hand on your chin and then you look up and you're just in deep thought thinking of all the shit you've done in the game and what's gonna happen to your characters right after you saw the ending. Like, oh man, is Kim gonna be all right? Or if Kim is with you, are you guys best friends now? Is there gonna be a part two? Speaking of that, I heard they're gonna make a show adaptation of some sort. Like I heard it's gonna be Disco Elysium is gonna be a live action show, which is fucking interesting. What a fucking interesting idea. I think that like I think it'll make a great adaptation to a show. It really would. And I normally don't say that about well, you can normally say that about video games, right? But the fact that it's like not all video games deserve show adaptations, by the way, but they generally translate well, right? Depending on the quality and who makes it and if they fumbled it or not. I'm looking at you, Resident Evil, latest Netflix show. I haven't seen it, but I heard his ass. To be perfectly honest with you, I try to stay away from judging something before I actually watch it. But when I saw the trailer to the last Resident Evil, um, I was like, no. And that's bad because the trailer's supposed to show you the best parts of it. Like they condense the best parts of a show or a movie into the trailer. And I remember finishing the trailer going like, nah. You know what I mean? So it's like that's not good. And then people watched the show and I think it got canceled and I was like, of course, like, you guys are being extra wokey. Very woke. I'm not even gonna get into that, all right? I don't want to fucking piss nobody off. That's not my goal here. You want to get pissed off? Go watch Andrew Tate or some shit. He's good at that. I'm not. That's expert level pissing people off. Expert level controversial. I'm not in that business. I'm not in any business. I'm just saying that if you want to be enraged, if you want somebody to argue with and yell at in the comments, I'm not the guy. I'm not the dude. With Disco Elysium becoming a show, it makes it doubly good because it could have been a good movie, right? And a lot of the greatest movies that I've ever watched and that have ever been filmed were book adaptations, right? So many great movies used to be books. They originally became books. Lots of my favorite movies I wasn't even aware was a book until I was at a bookstore and I saw it and I was like, "Oh, they made a book about the movie." And then I was like, "I'm an idiot. It's the other way around." So Disco Elysium is both a book and a video game, and both of those generally translate well to movie adaptations or show adaptations. So I'm like, I'm psyched for this. I think it's going to be a great idea. But once again, that all also falls on how the script is written and who's the cast. And so you still have those factors, but I hope they don't fumble that because I feel like this is a game. Yeah, this is a game that it'll be great. Like I feel like even if people didn't play the game and it's normally not the type of game that they play, at least they can watch the show if the show's great and go like, "Wow, I'm very interested. This is a great world." And that's when, you can kind of recommend the game now. Like, "Yo, try playing the game." Like it'll be a easier sell because, you know, I can sit here and tell you that I loved Disco Elysium, which I did. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. And the only reason I don't give it a 10 is because it's not Red Dead Redemption 2. No, I'm joking. That was a joke. The only reason I don't give it a perfect 10 is because I was frustrated many times because of the skill checks and because I felt like that was unfair. I don't have to explain that. That's self-explanatory. And also there were times where I'm talking and I'm like I feel like it was dragging out the scene with this artsy fartsy stuff. And I was just like, come on. I'm skipping I'm trying not to skip the dialogue because I love the narrator. I love the voice acting for the most part. For the vast majority of part, I love the voice acting. So I love hearing them talk their lines out, even though I can read faster than they can talk, and I can just keep reading through it. But I loved the voices so much that I would sit there and wait for them. Even the long, drawn out narrators, they're, did you know that? And, you're just like, come on. But those are the only two. And the thing is, if it happened every now and then, I would be like, all right, maybe I can give it like a 9. But I remember being frustrated. As a matter of fact, I remember being frustrated so much. At one point, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna finish this game. You know what I mean? Like there was a skill check in which I had to find, what was her fucking name? Ruby, I think her name was, and she was hiding out. Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it. She was hiding out somewhere, and I failed the skill check to get in that somewhere. And or that's how at least that's kind of how the situation was. And I was like, how? It was like fucking 92 or something like that. And I was like, so I had to run around and find like more people to talk to. It just dragged out. And I was just pissed because I didn't have to do that because I should have passed that skill check. So I should have reloaded now that I think about it. But I don't like doing, I think they call it save scumming. I don't know what you kids call it. I'm not a fan of that. I'm an old school dude, man. I don't like cheats. I don't like walkthroughs. I don't like guides. I don't like YouTube videos telling me what to do, what's the best gear in the game. I like to just jump in a game and just play my way from beginning to the end with no help because I'm stubborn and I'm an old man that needs no one's help. I understand that mentality is kind of dying because, like, all my friends, the first thing they say when I go, yeah, I'm kind of stuck in it, you go on YouTube. I'm like, damn, dog. Like, can I get some time to figure it out before you recommend that? But that's a sign of the times, right? Um, Once again, if you're one of those guys that want to recommend this game to someone, I would highly suggest to kind of ease them in. Don't make the, because if you just go play it, it's fucking awesome. There's gonna be a show. People, like you're gonna be like, they're gonna end up playing it because you pressured them so much. Excuse me, and then they're like, oh, this isn't Apex Legends. What are you doing? I'm never listening to you again. So that's the way I would suggest you do it. You know what I mean? Unless you have some really like open-minded friends and stuff like that. In that case, you'd be like, "Hey, bro, I know you're gonna like this. But you would know your friends better than me, because that would be weird if I knew your friends better than you, right? How creepy would that be? That is not even logical. Anyways, give it a shot. You know, hopefully you won't be as frustrated, excuse me, as I was with the two little issues that I would say I had with it. Maybe you would have better luck. Maybe you'll pass all your skill checks when you have a high enough percentage. And you know what? Not to mention, now that I'm thinking about it, there were times where I had like a 30% or 37% chance, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna pass this." But I just wanted to forward the game. I wanted to hurry the game up, so I would click the skill check at 37 and pass it. And I'm like, "How the fuck?" But of course, those you can't complain about because they're to your benefit. So I kind of stood quiet. I was like, yeah, yeah, that seems about right. 37. Of course, I'm a super detective. Anyways, thanks for listening. Catch you next time.